When the internet began, bulletin board services, or BBS, became the first online communities of the so-called information superhighway. Using their phone lines, people logged in from all over America to talk about sports, games, movies, and on one BBS in particular, share their ghost stories. Over time, those communities all went dark, except for one lone server that continues to operate somewhere in an unknown part of Pennsylvania's Rust Belt. A relic of the 1990s, veiled in mystery, it is a digital archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you are listening to Fear Daily.
Subject is Hell Humid. User Yellhammer. Posted February 13th, 1999.
I've been trying to tell myself this is all in my head, but I honestly don't think it is. I know what I saw and I know what I heard. Maybe you'll read this and think I'm insane, but someone needs to know what has been going down before this place swallows me whole. I'm a night janitor at a small office building off the I-10 near Cypress Shores. Not much to it. 2 floors, a few accounting firms, and a dentist's office. It's the kind of place you'd drive past 100 times and never notice. That's how I liked it. Quiet, out of the way, nothing but the sound of those humid Gulf Coast nights while I mop the linoleum floors. It started about a week ago. I was working late, finishing up on the 2nd floor when I heard something strange. It was faint at first, like a whisper carried on the wind. The building was empty. It always is after 7 p.m., so I figured it was just something outside. But the sound didn't stop. It got louder, closer, and it wasn't just any whisper. It was my voice. Hey, over here. I froze, mop still in hand. It sounded just like me, like someone had recorded me without knowing and was playing it back. If that wasn't enough to send chills up my spine, I also realized awful quick that the voice wasn't coming from anywhere specific. It was everywhere at once, bouncing off the walls. I called out, "Hello, is someone there?" My voice echoed back. The words weren't the same. "Is someone here? Are you there?" My skin crawled, but the voice stopped, so I just shook it off, hurried to get done as fast as I could, and left early that night. I told myself I was just tired, that the heat and humidity out here was just messing with my head, but the next night, it happened again. Only this time, it was worse. I was mopping the break room when I heard it. You missed a spot. Clear as day in my voice. My blood went cold. I turned around so fast I slipped and crashed down on the floor, knocking the rolling bucket backward, water splashing out on the floor. But again, there was no one there. Just me and the pale fluorescent light flickering overhead. Unnerved, I sat on that floor, stunned for a few minutes, trying to regain my composure, but it was when I finally started to get up and I saw it, my shadow. Well, it was my shadow, but it wasn't attached the way shadows usually are. No, the light was behind me, yet my shadow stretched forward, long and dark, like it was leaning toward the door. And then it moved, not with me, but on its own. I watched it shift, elongate, and curl around the corner like it was trying to escape. My legs felt like jelly, but I followed it, my boots squeaking on the wet floor. It led me to the stairwell. I pulled the door open and was immediately hit by that oppressive, damp air. It was thick and stifling, and it smelled like the swamp, mud and decay, mold and rot. At the base of the stairs, my shadow was stretched out across the first landing's wall, long and thin, motionless, except for a faint ripple at the edges. I reached out to touch the wall to ground myself, and that's when it spoke again. "Why are you following me?" The voice wasn't mine this time. It was deeper, rougher, like it had been dragged through the muck. The shadow shifted, rising up the wall like smoke. "Leave now," it said, "before it takes you too." I didn't need to be told twice. I turned and ran out of there and didn't even lock up. I drove straight home and spent the rest of the night staring at my bedroom walls, waiting for the sun. I even called in sick the next day and told myself I wouldn't go back. But rent doesn't pay itself, and if I'm honest, maybe all those drugs I did back in the 70s were finally catching up. Two days later, I reluctantly went back to work. It was pouring rain when I pulled up to the building, so I sat in my car for a few minutes to gather my nerve and prepare for whatever faced me. Hell, even if I was just crazy and there wasn't some shadow man in there, the floors were going to be disgusting after a day of this rain. That turned out to be a good thing, though, and at least so I thought, because the extra work helped distract me from the fear in the back of my mind. I was so focused on work that a few hours passed and not once did I think about the thing. And when I finally did, I was relieved because I realized it hadn't shown up after all. Boy, was I fucking wrong. Around midnight, I was cleaning the third-floor bathrooms when the lights went out. All of them. The room was pitch black except for the faint glow from the frosted windows and sporadic flashes of lightning outside. So I slowly and carefully made my way across the wet tile floor and stepped out into the hallway, full well expecting that something bad was about to happen, and yes, it did. Shadows, dozens of them, crawling up the walls, pooling in the corners, stretching across the ceiling. They moved like living things, twisting and writhing, but there was no one there to cast them. No bodies, no light, just shadows. I stood in shock as they began making their way toward me like snakes on the wall, slithering darkness closing in around me. "Welcome back," I heard, whispered in my ear in my own voice. "We've been waiting for you." Panic set in. I couldn't move a single muscle. All I could do was stutter out, "Who are you?" And then another voice howled out from the bathroom behind me, "Run." I don't remember much after that. I think I screamed. I know I ran. When I finally made it outside, the storm had subsided and the air was thick with that wet, moldy rot. I don't know what the hell is inside that building or why, but I think it's about time I hit the road and find somewhere new to live before this humidity kills me.
Subject, here first. User, 10 Proud Pop. Posted May 13th, 1996.
If you've ever bought a house, you know what a hassle it can be. Once you get through the negotiations, which are always dragged out by the owner not understanding how markets work and thinking their house is worth about twice what it actually is, you still have to deal with the bank, and after that, there's about 2 mountains worth of paperwork to get through. And then once you've got the house, you got repairs to think about, even in a place like ours that's only about 15 years old. Don't get me wrong, I'd rather own than rent, but still, what a drag. My wife and I have been in this place for almost 5 years now, and it's been a crash course in both home maintenance and metaphysics. Home improvement because the furnace loves to break and the plumbing needs constant attention, and metaphysics because we've got a damn ghost. At first I didn't clue in because who would? We started hearing scratches coming from the walls and ceiling, so I figured we had rats or something. No big deal. When birds suddenly started flying into our windows, sometimes as many as 10 a day, I thought it was weird, but who knows why birds do the things they do? Their brains are the size of a walnut. They can't be that smart. It took running into the previous owners during a Kroger run for me to think something was up. We'd briefly met each other during the sales process, so I recognized them right away when I bumped into them while looking for chicken noodle soup mix. After the obligatory Midwestern "how you doing," the wife blurted out, "Have you had anything unusual happen?" before her husband cut her off and changed the subject. He's either the world's most boring man or a master of misdirection because I don't remember what we talked about, just that afterward he hustled her out of there as quickly as he could without it looking suspicious. I kept thinking about what she'd started saying. Have you had anything unusual happen? Especially after our cats started refusing to go in the upstairs bathroom. They'd get as close as the doorway and stare intently like they were seeing something I couldn't, but they absolutely would not go further. Maybe 2 months in, I was walking down the hallway and the linen closet door opened up right in front of me. Nearly gave me a damn heart attack, too. I tried to push the door closed, but it wouldn't budge, even after I leaned into it. I went around to the other side, figuring something had fallen out and was wedged against the hinges, but there wasn't a single thing out of line. Once I'd done that, I was able to push the door closed with 2 fingers and an ounce of pressure. The unusual things were piling up, and we were far from done. The next thing happened to my wife Amanda and I as we lay in bed watching TV. The bed shook, like in that stupid mattress commercial where they dropped the bowling ball on it. We looked at each other, then tried to find what, if anything, had fallen on the bed, but just like the closet, there was nothing. I remember Amanda saying to me, "Todd, what the hell is going on in this house?" So I finally told her about the conversation, or attempted conversation, I'd had with the previous owners. I hadn't consciously kept it from her. It had just somehow not come up between us till now. Another time, I was in the walk-in closet getting dressed while our cat, Brutus, sniffed around and pawed at the carpet. I was sitting down, facing the door, putting my socks on, when suddenly the closet door swung open like Amanda was coming in. At this point, you can probably figure out what comes next. There was no one standing behind the door. It had apparently just opened itself. Or at least whatever had opened it wasn't visible to me. Brutus got a different view, I think, because a second after it burst open, he hightailed it out of there like the neighbor's dog was after him. That was finally enough to make the hair stand up on the back of my neck. Amanda had her own experience in the walk-in. It was similar to mine, except instead of the door blowing open to show no one was standing there, I walked in and she jumped a mile because she thought I was already standing behind her. Days after that, I was brushing my teeth in the morning and saw a large shadow pass behind me into the bathroom. The morning after that, I was again brushing my teeth when something tapped on my right shoulder. Remember that this is the bathroom our cats refuse to enter. Not great. Even the water has been getting in on the action. Despite us having installed a new well pump and pressure tank, all of which should keep the pressure constant, every single tap in the house has, at some point or another, just turned itself on. The toilets also like to flush themselves. Compared to seeing shadows or having doors fly open, this is pretty soft soap, so I don't mind it as much as you might think. By this point, though, you might be asking, why are you so sure you're dealing with a ghost instead of drafts and bad plumbing? The answer is simple, and it comes from my backyard. While digging in the flower bed last summer, way further down than I had in years past, I found a large stone. I dragged it free of the dirt and leaned it up against the fence so I could hose it off, and you want to guess what was under there? I'll tell you. Hand-carved letters. That baby was a grave marker, and I believe its owner is the one we're sharing our house with. It might seem like a big leap, but I'm a logical person, and you try combining everything that's gone on with the presence of a tombstone and see if the math comes out any other way. In a lot of ways, it's made all this easier to deal with. It's hard to be mad at a guy when he was here first.
Fear Daily is an independent podcast hosted by Brandon Schexnayder and written by Brennan Storr, with Joanna Smith serving as the consulting editor, audio production by Rachel Boyd, and sound design by Southern Gothic Media. This podcast is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or to real events or locations, is entirely coincidental. Ad-free versions of Fear Daily are available now on your favorite podcast apps. For more information, visit feardaily.com. But move fast, before the server goes offline.